good day, everybody. Welcome back to day 18 in the book of Job. We're holding today still in chapter 6, where Job retorts and replies, and so he starts to mix it up, and that always tends to make things interesting. I think it's going to be a good lesson today. Welcome to everybody. I see Sheila Etzel, my mother, is there in the YouTube room. Welcome. So good to have you with us. Always good to know you're out there listening. It means a lot to me to know that people keep coming back. It just encourages anybody to keep going forward with lessons. Yesterday, I kind of got stiffed in the Zoom room. Nobody wanted to come on the Zoom room. That was rather disappointing, but it's always good to be with others. So hopefully we'll be opening the Zoom room in about half an hour, and hopefully some of you will join me. The links are all there underneath the YouTube description or on the Facebook advertised post. You can find the links anywhere on the Noah Hyde World Center or on my Facebook front page. Be the latest post, day 18 in the book of Job, and make sure you're on the right one to get the right Zoom room link. That'll be opening soon. But as practice, let's review from yesterday. Let's see if we can blow this up so everybody can read. We're holding in chapter 6, part 31. We're still doing the teachings by Rabbi Yitzhak Schwartz, who is just a scholar in his own right. He's the Rosh HaYeshiva of Orkos Chaim Yeshiva in Jerusalem, and he's the head of the community that developed around that yeshiva in Givat Zev, just northwest of Jerusalem and the ancient settlement of Gibeon area. Anyway, so we're holding in chapter 6, verses 1 to 7, and Job answered and said, "Oh, that my vexation were thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balance." So those are the two things he's wanting to see on the scales: my vexation and the calamity. Put them both in the balances. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are stammering. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me, the poison of which my spirit drinks up. The terrors of Hashem array themselves against me. Does the wild ass bray when he has grass, or does the ox low over his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? My soul refuses to touch them. They are to me as loathsome food. So the commentary in this chapter, Job continues his argument of determinism. He insists that man is an object of fate. Free will is not a factor in determining the future. Job's main support for this viewpoint is the fact that the righteous suffer no less than the wicked. His personal tragedy proves his case beyond a shadow of a doubt. Job views his suffering as a curse that will remain with him until death. In his opinion, there can be no benefit or purpose in suffering. And we got to always keep in mind when you're ever chatting with somebody who's going through such suffering or drama. I mean, it's subjective, and it's what they're honestly feeling, and a lot of times nothing you say is going to affect that when they're in this tailspin state. Eliphaz contends that Job's suffering is not random misfortune or the result of a preordained fate of misery. It is Hashem's response to sin. Eliphaz concedes that Job is an extremely pious individual, but that does not preclude the possibility of minor errors in human conduct, especially when that requires the fulfillment of Hashem's will. The benefit of his suffering is to protect him from major misfortune in this world and replace the eternal suffering of the world to come. Job now begins his refutation of Eliphaz's arguments. Eliphaz pointed out that Job is not as righteous as he claims to be, as was clearly demonstrated by Job's losing control of himself after receiving his first difficulty in life. If Job was as pious as he claimed, he should have remained firm in his love of Hashem and faith that he judges man with absolute justice. verses 1 to 3. Job's response is blunt. Place on one side of the balance his pain and suffering, and on the other side his anger and inappropriate response. If the results of this weigh in would hang the scales in perfect balance, then Eliphaz's accusations might have some validity. But the reality is that the results would clearly demonstrate that the pain and anguish of Job would heavily tilt the scales in his favor. In light of such an overwhelming demonstration, Job's somewhat inappropriate response could be pardoned. Verse 4, and yeah, we need to see this too, that, those that are enduring suffering, usually their view of that is skewed. They don't see it as fair. Nobody wants to endure hardship or difficulty or pain, but it does happen. And I think by going through this course, I'm really hoping and believing that it's gonna aid some people to keep their eye on Hashem and his greatness, and the sheer fact that he does deal justly with people of this planet. And verse 4, as far as Eliphaz's claim that suffering has its benefits, Job sees no advantage in horrific suffering, since it can lead only to death. Furthermore, Job sees no reprieve from his miserable suffering. What does he have to look forward to if not more of the same? Although Job has no inside knowledge that his suffering will continue unabated forever, he takes a fatalistic approach. And that happens with the longer a negative situation goes on. You can take a fatalistic approach, and that's not a good position to do. This is a typical delusion of the depressed. They can see no out from their present misery. In light of Job's remarkable recovery at the end of the story, we can see how erroneous such doomsday feelings can be. Verse 5 to 7, Job continues to predict his final demise. Animals do not have the most delectable choice of foods at their disposal. Nevertheless, they do not complain about it. They eat their food out of necessity, regardless of the lack of flavor. Job's suffering is so intense that not only has he lost his appetite, but is totally disgusted by the sight of food. Good day, Ashley G., Mike McConaughey, and Zacchaeus. So glad to have you with us again. It means a lot that you do keep coming back. I hope you're getting plenty out of this series. The instinct to preserve life exists in all living creatures. One of the ways that this instinct manifests itself is the drive to eat, regardless of the quality of food. Rather than perish from malnutrition or hunger, all living creatures will eat. Job is not functioning on the level of even an animal at this stage. How can a living organism hope to heal and continue to live without the ability to eat? Job's situation is indeed grim. Rashi takes a different approach to these verses. An animal does not become agitated unless it is lacking food, but any food is sufficient for an animal, whether it has good taste or not. A human being, on the other hand, is not satisfied with tasteless food. If it lacks taste, it needs to be enhanced by salt and spices. Job states that he is no worse than an animal. As long as they have food, they are content. So too, Job would not be screaming if he could acquire a palatable understanding of his bleak situation. The answer that Eliphaz is giving him are like food without salt. Job cannot digest them. This is an important insight. Our sages of blessed memory teach us that just as people's faces are different, their mental and emotional profiles differ. One man's poison is another man's cup of tea. When attempting to comfort someone who is in misery, it is essential to have some understanding of the victim's unique temperament and perspective. No matter how intelligent or clever your thoughts and words may be, you cannot expect them to have any positive effect unless the recipient can relate to them and find them acceptable. And we kind of discussed this briefly yesterday. You've got to be able to relate and honestly have their permission to speak into their life before you dare, or else it could just come across like Eliphaz is trying to be give kind words, and it's not received. I've seen so many situations. It's just like talking to a wall. You can't get through because they won't hear it. They won't hear any correction whatsoever if they're dug in like a tick, thinking they've done no wrong and they've been unjustly harmed. I mean, it starts off, Job's asking to weigh it, the suffering and his response in the scales. Look at it closely. Text, of course, we keep saying is by Yitzhak Schwartz, and I'm so honored that he's allowed us to share this class. It's exciting. But let's go on with something fresh today. We're going to continue in chapter 6, part 32 today, verses 8 to 13. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for, even that it would please Hashem to trample on me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Then should I yet have comfort, yea, I would exult in pain. Let him not spare, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One. What is my strength that I should hope? And what is my end that I should be patient? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? Is not my help in me? And is sound policy driven quite from me? So the commentary says, Eliphaz claims that if Job would only accept his suffering with love, then Hashem would allow him to live in peace. Job's response to this is that his greatest wish is to die. Job is not sure that God is listening to him, or even if he is listening, he doubts that God will fulfill his prayer and wish. Job is in a state of total disbelief in the entire concept of divine providence. His first request is that God should listen. Secondly, that he should put him out of his misery through death as quickly as possible. And this is, indicative of those that are in a state of delusion. If they don't get their way, they're like a pouting child, right? They stamp their feet and demand. If they don't get their way, they want the worst possible thing, and if you can't deliver it, it's somehow your fault. And you got to watch. You can't get involved with people that are that delusional. They're in a tailspin. They'll just drag. It's like drowning person. They'll drag anybody they can under with them. Verse 9, up till now, it appears to Job that God is striking him with one hand and sustaining him with the other, like torture. Now Job asks that God should loosen his hand from sustaining him and speed up his death. Verse 10, Job considers it a comfort if Hashem would allow him to perish. The common translation of this verse reads as above, but this is another example of how you lose it in translation. The Hebrew words in question are vasalda and bechila. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to put in Hebrew script? According to Rashi and the Malbim, they mean to recoil or reel back, vasalda, from fear, bechila. According to the Mitsudo's commentary, the word vasalda means to be burned, in this context from fear. Accordingly, verse 10 should read something like this. Then should I yet have comfort, yea, I will reel back or tremble in fear. Compared to the common translation, I would exult in pain. Let him not spare, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One. The simple meaning of this verse would be that Job asks Hashem with trepidation not to pity over the loss of his life, rather to end his misery through death. For I have not denied the words of the Holy One. And I see that, legitimately as the actual case. There's nothing that shows that he has. But I think the point being that the whining people, those that are over dramatizing their situation, they don't realize how often the whining itself is in fact part of a denial. It's just bad speech. It's negative speech. And, the Hebrew people teach not to speak lashon hara, or evil speech. And Job may not have denied, but by speaking twisted speech, distorted speech, or dragging others through the mud, it's definitely tends towards I don't want to say evil speech, but distorted speech. The Malbim takes a completely different approach to this verse. Accordingly, Job's statement reads something like this: You, Eliphaz, say that I, Job, should not reject your prophetic advice, and that by doing so I am enraging Hashem, who in turn will respond with more severe punishment. That could lead to my death. How can you, Eliphaz, suggest that I should tremble in fear from Hashem and accept his holy decrees in order to avoid a divine decree of death? That is exactly what I desire the most. Let the execution begin. Make it quick. Don't. Nobody wants to long drawn out, painful exit. This is a great example of two people who are talking with each other, but neither have the slightest understanding or appreciation what the other is saying. This is key if you're ever going to help somebody. You've got to have complete understanding of what they are saying. It's too easy to just talk and not listen. Job tells Eliphaz that he is sick and tired and that he has no more will to live. Eliphaz responds with an appeal to Job's damaged sense of religiosity. Job is too exhausted, both physically and emotionally, to give any serious thought to the depth and wisdom of Eliphaz's statements. Communication is an art, and like any fine art, it requires great sensitivity. Verse 11, Job has lost all of his physical strength. Intense suffering has emptied his strength and sapped his will to endure. He has been transformed into an empty vessel. His only hope is for the end because the future belongs to the living, a privileged group from which Job is about to take leave. The absurdity of Job's despair is starkly contrasted by the incredible bliss that he acquired at the end of his life. Is there a lesson here? Perhaps predictions are not always self-fulfilling prophecies. And, the dramatic, those that cause a lot of harm, don't realize that when they predict things, they don't realize their labor in fulfilling those things. They just want to be able at the end to say, see, I told you so. And there's nothing more wicked than the infliction. And, this is all I saw in my time in Christianity often. They act derogatory towards you and then blame you for being in a derogatory situation. It's always your fault and never theirs. But that's how the abusive work, and they don't realize they inflict. And I think that's what he's pulling out here. Perhaps predictions are not always self-fulfilling prophecies, and practice of a lot of people on self-fulfilling prophecies. They get in a mindset that they think they have foresight, and in reality, they have delusion because they think they have foresight, and what they end up doing is forcing that foresight. And that's a negative use of our ability of free will. I mean, free will is given from Hashem, that divine spark for you to create. And this is why I got into CG artwork, is because, it was actual creation. I was chasing a target when I developed that film Fingerprints of the Flood. I wanted to learn how to do the CG art in order to show, because a picture says 1,000 words, and when people see something, they get the understanding so much faster. But not those that are chasing what they imagine is their own foresight. It's an imagination, but they see this as the end result, and they don't realize that they may in fact be forcing that end result and giving nobody else an option except that result, just so they can turn around and say, see, I told you so. And it's a delusional way of living. And when I was in Christianity, I remember those that just claimed that they could see demons in people, and they could be walking down the street and they could point them out, but it's all delusion, and they don't realize that they're condemning people by claiming such. And I don't know, I've just met too many nuts, fruits, and flakes. Hopes and patience are essential for a healthy physical and emotional existence. Hope and patience are essential for a healthy physical and emotional existence. At times when extreme despair sets in and patients are worn thin, the uniquely human capacity for hope may turn into anxious anticipation for death. This quite enigmatic phenomenon can make it very difficult for people who want to give encouragement and solace to victims of suffering and misfortune. Like I said, some people going through suffering and misfortune are honestly acting like spoiled children that won't settle for anything but what they demand. Like a kid who wants a candy, and their parent won't give it to them because they may have sugar issues, right? The absurdity of this bent mindset is that in it, the victim seeks to escape from the unbearable misery of his present condition. Of course, there is absolutely no reliable evidence that lends credence to this belief. The power of fantasy, there's a key right there. The power of fantasy can lead to grossly unsound conclusions. The Torah requires all human beings to preserve life. Not only murderers, but suicide as well is a severe Torah prohibition. To consciously choose to abandon life in favor of death is not only halakhically impermissible, but absolutely irrational. There is nothing glorious or intelligent about opting for death. No matter what sophisticated names or explanations it remains nothing more than a risky gamble on the most valuable possession of all, which is life. Very, very, very good words there. Text copyright by Rabbi Yitzhak Chaim Yeshiva in Jerusalem more than 25 years ago. Hope you're enjoying that, but anybody got any comments? I'm going to open the Zoom room soon, another 6 or 7 minutes. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's so easy to read through it, right? We're going to go on with chapter 6 today, verses 12 to 21 as well. Part 33, 12. Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? Is not my help in me, and is sound policy driven quite from me? So Job's trying for all he's worth. He said he didn't have the strength to continue to even deal with it, but is it quite driven from him? Sound policy. One who withholds kindness from his friend abandons the fear of God. And that sounds very proverbial. One who withholds kindness from his friend abandons the fear of Hashem. My brothers betrayed me like streams of water that pass in the Wadi, which are frozen by the ice and which the snow dissolves. When the time comes, they grow warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. The caravans turn this way and that in their course. They go up into the waste and perish. The caravans of Tema looked. The companies of Sheva waited for them, the streams of water. They were confounded because they had hoped. And they came there and were abashed because they found no water in the stream beds. Now you are like that. You see terror and are afraid. Commentary. At this point, Job begins to prove his position. I mean, you just imagine he's so physically zapped of energy and can't eat and has lost everything. And he's still trying to discuss very, very toilsome. Job finds that his life has become an impossible situation. After all, his physical strength does have a breaking point, whereas stone and brass retain their strength indefinitely. Organic matter, such as flesh and blood, is by its very nature destined to disintegrate. Eventually, as Job's internal strength is spent, his body will succumb to the horrific flesh-consuming disease that afflicts him. As far as Eliphaz's position is concerned, Job takes an offensive approach. If God actually appeared to Eliphaz with a message of consolation for Job, why did he overlook Job and deliver his message to Eliphaz? Is Job less worthy of divine communication than Eliphaz? Why couldn't God turn directly to Job since he is the suffering party? I mean, this is what's going on in his mind. In addition to this, Eliphaz claims that God is punishing Job in order to secure him a brighter future in this world and preserve him for a portion of the world to come. But his style of delivery is lacking, to say the least. One might say that Eliphaz has an extremely offensive bedside manner. After all, Job is sick and suffering terrible physical and emotional pain. Instead of using gentle words of kindness, Eliphaz attacks Job with a barrage of accusations of in, iniquities, character faults, and shallowness of faith. Eliphaz has good intentions to strengthen Job's faith and rehabilitate his trust in a just and compassionate God. Nevertheless, he should have delivered his remarks with the same sort of compassion that he claims that God possesses. Instead of accusing Job of spiritual and character weakness, he should have helped Job to understand for himself, not to preach the possible root of his troubles. Job cannot accept this type of approach. In his eyes, it is absolutely unfathomable that God delivered such a thoughtless message. Therefore, Job totally rejects Eliphaz's claim that his message is prophetic. In other words, nothing's adding up, in his dilemma. Nothing seems to make sense. Hi, Barbara. Good to see you. Glad to have you join us again. Always good to be with you. Job now lashes out at his friend. They have been sitting quietly with Job for 7 days without uttering a single word. We got to remember this is what was read in the text, right? They sat for 7 days without uttering a single word of comfort or encouragement before Eliphaz spoke, if we remember. If your friend is experiencing physical or emotional trauma, he needs to hear words of comfort. Until you do so, you are not only remiss in fulfillment of your obligations to your fellow man, but you are also unmindful of your obligations to Hashem. Eye-rolling and knee-buckling submissions to the awesome power of God are not necessarily genuine expressions of the fear of Hashem. True reverence of God demands of us that we attempt to emulate his ways. Hashem is the great comforter of all, and anyone who has experienced the sublime closeness of Hashem at times of difficulty and tribulation can testify to the comfort and support that Hashem's presence provides. One who genuinely fears or reveres Hashem will conduct himself in a manner similar to his creator. When your friend is in trouble, don't preach to him, comfort him. But it's it's like the addict saying the only thing that will comfort is feeding his addiction. I think that's the approach that Eliphaz has taken. For many people, the seasonal streams of water that flow in channels may be essential sources of water. However, often they are not reliable because they may freeze in the winter, dry up in the summer, or be absorbed by the porous grounds. Eventually, they disappear into thin trickles that quickly vanish. For the thirsty and parched sojourners, you got to remember you're in the land that was desert, and the whole southern part of Israel was prone to, periods of drought. So for thirsty and parched sojourners who rely on them, this can be a great disappointment to go to somewhere where I mean, you see the animals and the elephants in Africa that follow a path, and then they come back waiting for the rainy season and the water, and but as it gets to the end of the season before the wet season hits, they're really searching for waters, and the watering holes become dangerous places when they're thirsty. It's in the heat. It's just Job's friends are likened to these disappointments. Job is in dire need of strength and encouragement. He looks forward to the comforting words and support that only strong friendship can supply. Instead, he is humiliated by their callous insensitivity. But here's some word of advice. Do not let anybody ever tell you your kindness is callous or insensitive. If you're honestly giving true compassion, don't let the person that you're giving compassion to distort it into something that it's not. Now, Job gives a penetrating and startling insight into human nature. He turns to his friend with the following: Rather than comforting me, you have taken the position of my prosecutor. You have taken up the side of God because you cannot bear the discomfort that my suffering causes you. You are afraid that if Hashem deals with the righteous Job with such severity, there can be no hope that you will receive anything better because you fear for your own skin. You are afraid to defend me. Often we are deeply disturbed by the suffering of others. However, at times we may be more concerned that something similar does not happen to us than genuinely care for the welfare of the one that is suffering. You don't want to jump into a burning building just to save somebody if it's going to cost you your life. Such an attribute is usually not at the forefront of our mind. Nevertheless, it lurks just under the surface. When we come with such a perspective, we cannot possibly be a source of comfort for our suffering friends because it is our own well-being, not their welfare, that is our prime concern. In order to help others during their time of need, you must be totally focused on their experience. It is true that in order to accomplish this, you will need to identify with them, to feel that their pain is yours. Some people are more empathetic than others. They feel others' pain more than others, and I have difficulty with empathy. I can sympathize, but empathize, I don't. It's something that doesn't register with me well. But identification is not the goal, only the means to achieve the goal. The goal is to alleviate some of their pain and suffering by communicating the message that they are not alone, that we bear part of the yoke of their suffering on our shoulders. That's what friendship does, is it helps lift the burden, and but never let your kindness be distorted by the person you're trying to help. And that could be enabling their further tailspin, and when you do good deeds, let it be clear to them that you are bearing part of their suffering, and they need to understand that clearly, that what you're doing is in fact helping, and they could be in such a state that in their eyes nothing helps, and it's they'll just drain you dry, and nobody wants to see somebody go through it. Barbara says, I feel so sorry for Job. I would like to comfort him, even this is long time ago. Oh, that's honorable of you, Barbara. Forgive me, I got a mustache hair stuck in my tongue. Blech. Anyways, it's time to open up the Zoom room. Let's see if anybody wants to join in today. Always good to be with people. Maybe somebody's got some questions or comments. Just me so far again. Well, folks, once again, I'm still excited to tell you that we've got this Roku. Oh, we're joined by Hans down in Paraguay. Hans, my friend, thanks for coming. We're so excited to be starting this Roku television station, which goes live this Thursday at midnight. We're excited, and I'm always looking for content. And I was even chatting with my friend Shara Chabaki down in Florida, who is the facilitator for this upcoming Tennessee retreat. And I threw out, if she wanted any airtime. Shalom, Gren's audio blog. Glad to have you back with us today. Always good to see people return, and it's nice to meet you once again. Hans, how are you, buddy? Oh, you're in mute.
And mute. Hi, Dan. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm better now that you came. You weren't around yesterday, and I was on here all by myself in the Zoom room. I don't know why people have aversion, but they do. Some people do, and you got to respect that.
Yeah, I watched the program later on YouTube. Yeah, I was away yesterday, and today I took my first vaccine shot. Pfizer.
A Pfizer one. They're saying now in the U.S. they're going to have a third, a booster, and it's ineffective after so much time. It dwindles. What's the point of calling it a vaccine if it doesn't vaccinate, right? But we hope that works out. Is the COVID cases still going strong in Paraguay, or what's going on down there?
Not really that much, a bit more than 100 deaths a day, but I mean, it's a population of 7 million. Main reason I take the vaccine shot is I want to be able to travel more easily, because a lot of countries let you get through without the quarantine as soon as you have the vaccine pass.
2 vaccines, yeah. Yeah, myself included. I mean, I haven't gotten vaccinated yet, but we're waiting to see how travel is going to be affected. I hear of a couple countries in Europe are talking about if you come from a country that's got more than 70% vaccinated and that you have a positive test or a test for no COVID, that you can travel. So, in other words, they're not making the vaccine mandatory in some European countries, I'm hearing.
That's good.
Mike McConaughey's asking, will this Book of Job be on Roku? You know what, Mike? Eventually I'm going to put it up there, but I don't think people realize how much time is consumed to put up. Like, there's 168 hours in a week, and to get new stuff, we're not going to know a lot of details about how to make this Roku station super successful. But there are, what a lot of people don't realize is when you're dealing with a lot of television stations, some of them only have just a few hours a week of new content, just a few hours, and everything's all rerun. And I will probably be putting this Book of Job up there. I have been juggling hard drive space back and forth, trying to get their encoder to upload certain things has been difficult in some respect. For some reason, occasionally a video. The McConaughey's are having their dinner. It's supper time there in the UK. Well, enjoy your dinner. But I do miss the Murdochs. We haven't seen them in a while, and we hope that they're all well and all their ventures are panning out. But, Hans, for travel purposes, it makes a lot of sense. I know that Rabbi Goldberg next Tuesday and Rabbi Uri Shirky will be making their trip next Tuesday. Will be making their trip to the U.S. And even after they've been vaccinated, they're starting to see some rise in numbers there in Israel, which is a shame. I mean, we're holding pretty good where I am in British Columbia. There's only about 5 or 6 million people here in British Columbia, and we've got a pretty big area. But the numbers we hit over about 120 new cases yesterday. They've just recently opened up venues again, like pubs and movie theaters and things like that. So they're waiting to see if there's any spike in results. But what we're dealing with more right now is wildfires. And I hear down in California, Ashley, you're down in California, if I recall correct. I hope you're safe and sound, but we're dealing with wildfires. So we get lightning in the tinder dry areas after heat waves. One lightning strike can just cause a fire and evacuation. We had one I drove by yesterday just south of me. We could see the huge smoke plume that's just, mountainous size, just going up in the air. And they had hundreds of homes on evacuation orders or potential. But the winds can come in fast and blow this, and sparks can restart more. But I hear down in California, they're fighting some massive blazes. They're even warmer down there. But yeah, we live in a crazy day and age, don't we? And we know Hashem is great. He owns it all, and he can do with what is his as he sees fit. I mean, he is Hashem, and we need to keep that always before our eyes. The debate with Eliphaz and Job starting to retort. I mean, the anguish and the delusion that comes from incessant pain. I don't know. The worst I can think of myself is like a toothache. A toothache is just one of those things that touches a nerve directly. Those are things that can drive somebody insane over a long period of time. Germany, Barbara's saying they have a flood of water, rain, 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 no stop. Sorry to hear, Barbara. And we're not seeing that here. I mean, the rains in North America tend to happen more in the east. Flood rains tend to happen more in the east than the west. The west we tend to dry in the mountain areas. The old song, "It never rains in Southern California." But when it does, it pours. I don't know. I lived in Vancouver region for a number of years, and I had to get out of there because it did rain so much. It's just the way the valley, cups the weather and becomes a trap around the mountains. And Barbara, you must be near some mountains in the Alps in Germany, I guess, right? What about you, Hans, in Paraguay? Are you anywhere near the Andes?
No, it's quite some distance. I have to travel like 1,000 kilometers to reach the Andes Mountains. But I usually went up there every southern summer. I used to pass December, January, February in La Paz, Bolivia, to get away from the tropical heat in Paraguay. Only last time I couldn't go up because of the pandemic. Borders closed and restrictions on tourism.
Right. They got a desert there in the Andes, don't they?
Oh yeah, very dry, arid.
But yeah, down southern Argentina. Wow, beautiful country. I would love to get down there to Peru, maybe even Bolivia. I think like there's a lot more cradle of civilization in South America than people imagine, and Barbara B says, Hashem must be around the corner. He's everywhere, Barbara. Everywhere. There is nowhere he is not. He's omniscient, omnipresent. There's nowhere we can hide. As King David said, even if he makes his bed in Gehenna, Hashem is there. I mean, I think this is what Job's plight is at this stage. Just get it over with. I don't want the suffering anymore. Nobody enjoys certain negativity. We get that. But like I said, you need to be clear that if you're ever helping somebody in plight, that they are crystal clear in their understanding that your involvement is help. And you need to make sure that they don't distort your kindness. Their anguish may cause them to lash out at anything that's helping them because they're not feeling the relief that they really want. Like I said, a toothache is one of those things. If it hits a nerve, until that is either, it's either the nerve is deadened or the tooth is pulled. It's not going to go away. Headache and infection and Job's plight is just irritating. He can't even eat, and to understand that his three friends came and sat for 7 days before this conversation started. The reality, Job must be starving and in anguish. I don't know about you, but I've gone a few days without eating myself, and I've never known gnawing hunger living in a first world country. But that's got to be, all on Job's mind. Like we've read, he has no appetite to even begin to get strengthened, and that's, even playing into his despair. But what do you think, Hans? Any statements?
No, Whenever I feel hungry, I grab something and eat it. I always still my hunger.
Yeah, yeah. It's we live in fortunate places, fortunate times. May we never take it for granted, and always give thanks to Hashem for His abundance provisions. We need to be grateful that we have that opportunity. We did see a bit here last year when the COVID was hitting, where the shelves were starting to get picked a little bit. People were starting to hoard certain things, and we saw people would even walk out with buggies full of steaks or meats that they were just, a sale would happen and they would buy it out and stuff their freezer full, and then people were starting to get irate with them for doing such, and all they were doing was looking out for themselves. Yeah, and we need to be careful when you're trying to help those that are in anguish. Sometimes the answer that they need is to stop focusing on themselves. Of course, that's the last thing they want to hear, because they get tunnel vision with the anguish, and that's all they see, feel, know, and are going through. It's almost like if somebody's runs over your foot with a car, if you don't get the car off the foot, the pain's not going to stop. But when there's an absence of direct infliction, like if somebody's got a thorn, poked in, I mean, you can pull the thorn. But in the absence, in Job's cases, Job's case, they can't, his friends cannot see, a quick remedy. It doesn't exist. So it becomes a philosophical debate. But Job's seeing clearly that Eliphaz's debates are just, accusation. And anybody online got any comments they want to share? Questions? Let's see what's going on Facebook. I see my friend Lisette, our friend Lisette down in Dominican Republic, has been watching on Facebook lately. Always good to have you with us, Lisette. We hope you're all well down there. You guys braved that last hurricane that came through. That's great. I heard it dropped lots of rain and whatnot on the southeast United States. Get lots of that down there. Anyways, it's always exciting. Well, I may have to shut this down early today. I mean, and does anybody want me to review? I mean, I will review again tomorrow. I don't want to sound repetitive in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
Dan, tell me,
yeah,
your Saturday broadcast with, or your Sunday broadcast with Chaim Goldberg is suspended now for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, we won't be back for 3 more weeks. He's gone. Like this week is Tish B'Av, the 9th of Av, and to them that's like they say, a fast or a feast day, and they fast on that day because in their history, many major negative events have happened to them as a nation on that day. Look it up, 9th of Av, and what the rabbis encourage, the longer you hang around, is to understand their calendar flow and their messages weekly follow a calendar, and they remember where they've come from, and they thank Hashem where He's got them today, and their attitude is to learn from the things of the past and make the world a better place for the future. And Rabbi Goldberg's off next week because of the 9th of Av. There'll be a fast day, a feast or fast day, depending on what the rabbis in Jerusalem tell them. But the following week, like I said, next Tuesday, him and Rabbi Shirky go to the U.S. On that following weekend, on the Sunday, they will be making their way back to Israel. So He won't be available then, so will be a few weeks. But when he does, we're gonna go and I'll start broadcasting live onto Roku. So in a few weeks, I'll have our Sunday class on the Roku station, and then it'll be uploaded to YouTube after. Either that, or Rabbi Goldberg's gonna pipe it to YouTube while I pipe it to Roku. Directly, and I can do Roku and Facebook, but I can't do YouTube and Roku. It's just a conflict. The coding doesn't allow for it to happen, and I don't know. We're hoping that this channel takes off and that people enjoy it. I want to get more software up there, or more videos, but it's a lot of time to get everything up in order. I've got to go back 3 years with several rabbis and keep in order all these videos. And even though I've been when I do a broadcast, I keep a high definition, high quality copy. I've been storing them for years, and I've had to over the last few years get rid of some. I mean, I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of terabytes of videos. When I do a full HD video like this class at 90 minutes, it's about nearly 8 gigabytes in size, and it doesn't take a dozen classes, and you're at 100 gigabytes, and to download and upload, I have a couple terabytes in the cloud with Dropbox, and I used to pass them to the rabbis, but now everybody cheats. They just download it right off of YouTube, and they end up uploading it at lower resolution, and that's disappointing because you work hard to make sure that it's good grade, good quality. I'm more concerned about what this Roku station is going to look like as far as quality, because they only are asking for 4 megabytes a second of upload, or of bit rate in the video flow, and I usually run about 10. So in order to get a clearer video, you want higher bit depth. Full HD, like Blu-ray quality is more like 25. And, you've got people out there now with 4K TVs, and 4K TVs. There is a Roku app, Mom, that you can download, but I asked them directly, and they said no. You need a Roku box. You can buy them online. Amazon sells a Roku TV box. People have been buying these and then dropping their cable subscribers because they get access to hundreds and hundreds of channels with a Roku box. All they have to do is make sure that the Roku box plugs into their TV and receives an internet signal, and you can pick them up. I looked online. Mike McConaughey said he bought one, ordered one in the UK. He said he ordered one cheap. I looked the other day at getting one. I mean, $60 or something here in Canada. You can order one on $60 Canadian or so. But you plug it into your TV and you make sure that the box gets an internet signal, and you've got no more cable bill, right, for television. So that's the whole concept of Roku, to make your smart TV receive. And our channel number, not that they don't use numbers, they use the station names, which is the International Noahide Network, but the channel number is 70591. So that's over 7,000 channels on Roku, where you'll be able to surf if you get a Roku box. But this is why they've got more than 50 million in the U.S. People, pay $60 for a box, and they never have to pay for a cable bill. That's usually 1 month worth of cable subscription here, and where I am, I pay X for internet and X for cable. With my providers TELUS, but this is why they're booming. They're saying it's going to be bigger than the .com boom. It's starting to pick up in Europe, where everybody in Europe is biting on the Amazon Fire Stick, which is a different setup. But the people we hooked up with that are going to, hold our content delivery system, work with the Roku people. And Roku is the oldest, and they're the largest. But you've got Apple TV is growing, and Android TV is also growing as well. They're just basically internet to your television if your TV's smart TV as it's out there. So, but you can download an app. I've seen the app you can download for Windows to your computer, but I'm told it doesn't function the same way. The signals aren't sent. They need the box to decrypt the encoding. I've done lots of uploads, and no matter how much I make a video and encode it, they have to re-encode it into their management delivery system, and it's the way they protect their investment. See, we live in a world where too many people are pursuing free, and there's a degree of wisdom in being frugal, but when people cross the line to being cheap and taking somebody else's material, everybody wants everything for free. I was chatting with Shara Chabaki, who's the host of this Tennessee retreat, and I offered her some airtime, and she told me definitively they're not going to be airing Rabbi Tovia Singer's banquet presentation for a few months at least. They said too many people that have paid money for tickets, and they have part of the banquet will be available on a virtual event. People that are paying for things would be slighted if it was then all of a sudden available for free, and the option wasn't given to them for free because they paid for it. But yet people don't realize, like I was chatting with her, she's trying to deal with our friend Veronica Port from Tacoma, Washington. She used to be my admin on the No Hide World Center chat room. Sweet lady. She was making her trip to the Tennessee retreat, and her van overheated. Of course, we're in the middle of a heat bubble right now, and so she was hauling her trike, her motorcycle, and going to see the friends in Tennessee, but she had a delay and a problem. So Shara was trying to raise money for Veronica to help keep her going to the retreat, or else she'll have to cancel and turn around and go back to Tacoma, Washington. But I was chatting with Shara, and most people don't realize to pull this off. I mean, a retreat like that. I mean, Shara and her husband are out thousands of dollars. I mean, it's just cost them thousands to make this happen, just for food for the kids and everything they're putting on for the events for the children at these campsites at this event in Tennessee. And I keep telling people you can do as much as your heart's desire as a B'nai Noach, as long as you're willing to carry the load. Doors are wide open for those that have skills and talents, and you're willing to support the rabbis. You'll find they'll keep the doors open, but things cost. And I have an aversion for people that demand free always. I mean, I want to thank people that have donated through my Buy Dan a Coffee app there. It's been great. A lot of you, most of you that attend regularly have given something. And, nobody can do work indefinitely for nothing. As we see, Job gets tired when he can't eat. It's just logic. But life has to be lived. And for Noahide to grow, there has to be community support, and community support comes with parting of resources to make a community happen. It's not just all about being involved and being on the forefront. Like, I enjoy hosting these classes, but the truth is, a lot of I targeted when I started. I was looking for rabbis that needed somebody with the computer skill set and CG support. I wanted to help the ones that needed it. because I believe that they've gone through their shmika, they've been ordained through the rabbinical order all the way back to Moses, and if they've been taught in their yeshiva that they're equipped to bring the light of Torah to the nations, and so I wanted to support that. Um, and I've had a lot of people, why don't you try to get such and such rabbi or so and so rabbi? Well, I've met many others and had conversations, and some of them are super successful because they have the support staff behind them, and a lot of them pay for it. Um, you see a lot of them are always running donation campaigns, or um, they're trying in some way, shape, or form to keep the machinery moving. And I do encourage you to support the rabbis before supporting the work that I'm doing. But nobody can keep it going forever, and it's almost an infection when people expect things for free. Um, and I want to thank everybody that has supported. To me, it means a lot. I know that the rabbis, some of them as well, need support. Some are more well-to-do than others, but Hashem provides, and sometimes He provides through those that are benefiting from the work of the servant. And so, all I can say and encourage is that I would hate to see Shara Chabaki and her husband suffer thousands of dollars in loss over putting on this retreat that a lot of people have been excited over, and I know have made their summer vacation around in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. But I know that it forwards the cause, for them to bring in Rabbi Singer, and Terry Hayes is going to speak there, and Jacob Scharf, wonderful gentleman, scholar, Noah Hyde. I'm sure it's going to be an awesome time. But I encourage everybody, if you go out online, you can buy a virtual ticket for that event and see what she will be showcasing. She's actually got a crew from Florida going up to Tennessee, a video crew going from Florida to Tennessee to actually do the capture of the event, and they're hosting an event. But it's $23 a person if you want to just see it virtually online. If people don't support that or get online with that, you can't expect one person or one family to carry the brunt forever and think a community is going to grow out of it. Logic dictates. People get worn thin, as we see in Job's life today. If you can't eat, everything seems difficult. And I get overjoyed to meet new rabbis or to hear beautiful Torah messages and be able to share it. But we're looking forward to this venue of this Roku station. Well, the Roku station, we're hoping it becomes a revenue stream where I can at least maybe develop a living wage, but that only comes by success of the station, people tuning in, and they get all the stats of the viewership. And if people are tuning in, it may open the opportunity for an ad pool insertion where big ad agencies in the United States and abroad buy ad time, and it goes to an ad pool. Anyways, they get an ad pool, and we're hoping to get to that point where an ad pool is saying, here, we're going to play automatically insert commercials. We want to get to that point where commercials are getting inserted, so we get revenue, unless we start selling airtime or producing commercials or shows that start winning awards and stuff. Now, I know what it takes to get involved with a lot of film festivals and things like that. I've been involved with a lot of that. I've talked with Rabbi Goldberg. I says we should do a music film festival for Jewish Noahide, and we could probably get hours of music where people produce videos, and I says I could set that up easy enough, and might draw some revenue. But trying to make things work in this day and age, it gets harder and harder and harder when everybody wants everything for free, or they can't afford anything, or who knows. I mean, nobody expects anybody to bleed themselves dry in support of a cause. But in reality, if you're benefiting from something, you should be supporting it in some way, shape, or form. But I put my money on the Noahide World Center a few years ago when I committed to Rabbi Goldberg as my rabbi. I says I'm going to get behind with all I can, and I think sometimes my time and effort is worth more than just giving a couple of dollars. And there's a lot of people out there of a similar mindset. If you have the capability and skills and you want to get involved some way, shape, or form, find somebody in your area who has part of the vision. Leaders will step forward. They need to begin to shine in areas where they are, so that others can take note and say, this is a leader in my area, and you can donate your time and energy to building a community, rather than just throwing resources, because there's strengths and benefits to having the resources, like when it comes to conferences and things like that. I mean, it's tough to bring in rabbis and fly them. I mean, just to get tickets from Israel to here, it's like $1,200 Canadian. Um, if a rabbi, you're not going to get some rabbi to come from Israel unless you're paying them something, and paying for the flight and the hotel, and they have kosher needs, and they want to be near a synagogue. If they're going to be traveling during a Shabbat, there's certain, they've got requirements, and a lot of detail. But you can get involved anyway, if you're inclined to. But make sure you talk to your rabbi or who you consider your leader. Get advice about getting involved, and always make agreements as you take steps, and you'll find that Hashem will just open the roll out the red carpet. I think this B'nai Noach has the ability to surpass. It can explode on the scene around the globe, and I'm trying to do everything I can to get the influence out there, with the tools that I have at my disposal and the skill set that I have. So we're hoping that this Roku station does hit. But yeah, for $60 or so, you can get yourself a Roku box. And I'm always looking for new content and interesting content. I've had a few suggestions, and a few people make some comments. I've also had a couple people offer to do shows that I wouldn't want to endorse. It's not just me. I mean, I got to bounce it off of Rabbi Goldberg, and this is why I wouldn't do anything on my own. But he's given me the green light as director producer to just get the content up there, the good stuff. But often, what do I know? I mean, I got a lifetime of experience being over 50. But I'm only human as well, so I can make mistakes. So I don't know. But I hope you're enjoying this class on the book of Job. To answer Mike's question, yeah, we probably will be putting this up on there eventually. But the whole point of me doing this class was to help buffer the Noahide World Center numbers, which I've watched and helped grow. And a shout out to the Noahide World Center. We've almost, since 3 years of being on board, doubled the number of people that have subscribed to the channel, and it's just great to see. But I'm working on, like I said the other day, I'm working on a post right now where I can do in a commercial. My friend Rabbi Aaron David Poston of Yiboneh, who I do Beyond the Seven with, his YouTube channel in just over 5 years, is about to cross the 1 million viewer mark. And 1 million views, that's a huge milestone. So I want to give a congratulations and a shout out to them to do it in just over 5 years. You can go to anybody's YouTube channel, and there's an About tab, and you click on that About tab, and it'll tell you how many views that channel has had. and you can see that some are doing well. I mean, we at the Noahide World Center, I mean, we're nearing 400,000 views. We don't have any super successful. I mean, Rabbi Chaim Richman, who did some broadcasts 10 years ago, he's got several in there that have thousands and thousands of views, but they get hundreds every month. Rabbi Richman, some of his material is straightforward shorts that seem to hit the mark in that regard. People repetitively will review them or go back to them as source material. But I look at Rabbi Poston, what is some of his success, and I know that he can hit 1,000 views in any broadcast he puts out. But Rabbi Breitowitz, he can get 5,000 views for every one he puts out. And I look at my friend William Hall site on Tanakh Talk, and I clicked on his about the other day, and he was at 2.2 million, more than 2.2 million. And when you get Rabbi Singer and Skobach along with Schulman and Kaufman and his other Texan friend there, that these guys are getting thousands of views per episode. The numbers can add up quickly, and they can make some income from the ads on YouTube. But we're hoping there's more potential for being more lucrative on the television station. But it has to be successful, and nobody can replace Hashem's blessing on the matter. And we're hoping that Torah shines. I just believe in the call of Hashem to Abraham and the promise of Hashem to Abraham and to his descendants. And this is where I believe in supporting the Torah for the sake of the promise of God. I want to see the promise of Hashem fulfilled. And I think that's, if he created the heavens and the earth, then we should be laboring to make it what he requires. And this is where the Sheva Mitzvot come into play: not to worship idols, not to curse God, establish courts of justice, to deal with injustice, not to commit murder, not to commit sexual immorality, not to steal, and no cruelty to animals, and be thankful for your food, for sure. Understanding how those intricately link with making the world a better place is profound, to say the least. But without courts of justice, people would just run amok and destroy themselves if there was nothing that withholding them. Grenton's audio blog says Abram was the first convert. I don't know. The Hebrew nation didn't exist for several hundred years, so you couldn't call him a convert. He was, the father of the faithful. There is a new movie out called The Young Abraham, a 3D animated movie. I've got it up. I wanted to look at it. Check that out. Abraham is just, a profound character. We've been dealing, right, Hans? You've been sitting in with Rabbi Goldberg's class. Now, they hold closely that Abraham endured 10 tests, right up to the sacrifice of Isaac. And these tests between Hashem and Abraham teach such depth of lesson. I spoke with Rabbi Levin, got back to me yesterday, and he's just about ready. We're trying to do a series. We've got an upcoming series with our Pleasant and Purposeful Torah series. He's been working on a special message for Noahides. He's going to share the 10 Commandments relevant to Noahides, and it's going to be a decent series. I know he's planning. I miss him. I told him, I said, I miss him, and I told him, I says, I got lots of his material up on this Roku station already, and I told him, I says, I got enough to even put up an entire week of Pleasant and Purposeful Torah nonstop. And I says, I'm going to give him lots of airtime. And I said, but please let me know if you're seeing any any feedback from, like, I'm hoping that he gains some degree of support, but more than just support, that it hits the mark in the sense that people find it useful. I also got a couple of my own series on there, but I'm also replaying. I don't know how many of you attended last November 15th. We did a 27th Chesvan celebration.
I was there.
You were there. That was a great time. It was a 2.5 hour session where I shared a lot about the flood. And I had a few, all the rabbis that I deal with directly, got on and said a word or two. It was an honor to spend time. But it's something that we annually, as B'nai Noah, can celebrate. The 27th of Chesvan in the Hebrew calendar is to them the day that Noah and the animals came out of the ark, according to their oral tradition. And, they like to celebrate it as a World Unity Day, but we did that broadcast, a 2.5 hour broadcast. I got that up as well. Is going to be on the station, and we're trying to put out interesting content, but I'm still trying to get more exciting content. Can't find anybody wanting to do a cooking show. I mean, because that costs money. I mean, you've got to have meals prepared and planned, and then you got to cook it in front of a camera, and it's a lot of work. And unlike secular, when you get on like TikTok, everybody who wants to be seen. You're dealing with when you deal with the holy people, like the nation of Israel. They don't want to be in the forefront, and I've met even a lot of honorable B'nai Noach. Nope, I'm not a frontline person. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be seen. Me, I'm just a bit of a loudmouth. But I hopefully you guys don't see me that way. I try my best to bring interesting content, and hopefully you're enjoying this book of Job by Rav Yitzhak Schwartz. I find it's beautiful material by Rabbi Schwartz. Brought a lot of solace in my life in helping to understand the debate is much bigger than one imagines for free will versus the complete and utter sovereignty of Hashem. When you see the way Job is arguing, personal drama and circumstance can so sway. We're such fickle creations, yet capable of such profound things if we blossom and flourish to our potential. And that's what I'd like to encourage, is that let the light of Torah ignite that spark of life in you, and let it begin to blossom to your life's full potential. You can impact things in a great way, beautiful and profound things Hashem can do through your life if you let him. But we also, as human beings, are so capable of such wickedness and debased thought. But we need to be able to overcome our Yetzer Hara with our Yetzer Tov. Our whole point of existence is to let that good inclination, rule over the evil inclination in function. And that's what the Sheva Mitzvot really promotes. You need to understand the ethics behind how it puts down base thought and elevates, good character, godly character. And thank Hashem, we don't have to hold the same standard that the Hebrew people who were told to be holy as Hashem is holy. I mean, that just sounds like an impossible task. But I'm thankful that, hey, when the sun, in Israel is setting later, the rabbis told me, nope, we can't broadcast until this time. Rabbi Kaufman has been clear. I can't. I need at least 20 minutes after Shabbat to square my head before jumping into a class. And Gren's audio blog says, what I get from Job is that no amount of complaining relieved his pain. So true, so true. I mean, no amount of complaining relieved his pain. He's begging for death. I mean, for crying out loud. I like the way the commentator brought out the principle in Judaism about the preservation of life and how high a priority the preservation of life, that complaining and demanding or wanting death is just such a state of delusion. Um, Complaining doesn't solve anything. Uh, Dealing with the problem, but Job is dealing with this. We need to understand he's sitting in ash, which is the medical cure for the boils that are below the waist that he's dealing with, and he's using broken potsherds and he's scraping the sores that are above on his body. And his friend sat there for 7 days silent before this conversation with Eliphaz started. And he's got no appetite to eat after he lost his family and all his wealth. Talk about a loss of incentive. I don't know about you, but I've seen some people lose everything. And lifestyle, if they're used to being able to call on a servant to come and do this, he lost all his servants as well. They'll call a servant, say, get me cook me a lamb or cook me this. And excellent, Mike. Thanks for all you do. I mean, you're a spark plug, and we appreciate you stepping up in the UK. And may Hashem truly take your life to its full potential. And life is just one of those things. What about you down there in Paraguay, Hans? Are you hearing of any more growth, Noahide growth down in your country?
No, I haven't managed to hook up with another Noahide community in Paraguay. I haven't. But I see there are some participants from other places in South America, like there is Zacharia from Peru, usually participates on
There's
Sunday.
some more in Brazil as well.
In Brazil as well, there is quite a lot.
Yeah, Brazil's a big country, yeah?
Yeah, huge.
Well, all we can do is keep trudging forward and let Hashem have his will. And
now, Dan, this weekend being Tisha B'Av, probably your Saturday broadcast is suspended as well with Dan Poston and Chaim Kaufman.
Yeah, with Rabbi Poston and Kaufman, we're off this week as well. So yeah, and I'm going to be just doing lots of uploads to try to get more content. I've already got a 4-day straight run, nearly 4 days for the Roku channels. Got 4 days worth of episodes. Like, it'd be neat. Some of you, if you've never saw the episodes I did with Rabbi Moshe Shulman, living the Noahide life with him, he really explains a lot of in-depth things that are real essential for Noahides to truly grasp where lines get crossed. He brings out, he's a different cat, that's for sure. He speaks his own way, and he's his own unique, got his own demeanor, but he's got a full-blown Haredi view, and he's been around this B'nai Noach stuff for 30 years and saw it come and go and grow, and he's got a well thought out position on the matter, especially relative to Torah. And I encourage everybody to catch that series. There'll be lots of pleasant and purposeful Torah. Goes right back to the beginning. Same with Pirkei Avos with Rabbi Kaufman is going to be on right from the very, very beginning of Pirkei Avos. Will be starting to air as well. Plus, I've got some beautiful excerpts up there with Rabbi Breitowitz. I got half a dozen episodes of Rabbi Breitowitz. So we're hoping that scratches the itch for a lot of B'nai Noach out there. But yeah, Tish B'Av, I won't be broadcasting this Saturday at all or Sunday with Rabbi Goldberg. But I will be working on lots of stuff behind the scenes. I do every day. I'm nose to the grind. Lots of work. Trust me, it's lots of work. I told Rabbi Goldberg there last week, I says, I'll be putting in probably 40 to 60 hours last week and doing the same this week. And, it doesn't seem to end. We want it to be effective. but it's only going to be as effective as the leaders in the areas begin to step up and shine as leaders. And I keep praying, Hashem, strengthen them and encourage them and give them the wind in their sails they need to get to their purpose for being part of this. And it's always nice when we see the same people come back and we get to develop bonds of relationship, because as a friend is more than just an acquaintance. I'd be more easily pressed to encourage somebody to go chat with a friend that I'm familiar with than somebody I'm not. And we don't want to ever become derogatory to those that aren't part of our group. I mean, the whole idea, we need to understand expansion and contraction laws that the Hebrew people teach. In order to expand, you've got to be very, very open and broad in your interpretation of a lot of things. You've got to judge favorably, everything that people say and do, and don't be quick to jump down on those new coming to B'nai Noach. You've got to be open to get to know them in order for friendships to develop, in order for communities to begin to flourish. But, I'm praying Hashem puts the sparks on it all, because I think that, we've got the potential to really impact this world and make it a better place. And if we don't do it, nobody's doing it, right? We need to carry that as a torch. So let me encourage you all to keep it up. But I will be back tomorrow and Thursday with this class, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But if you got some questions, write them down. Feel free to ask. I mean, I want to mix it up a little bit and make it interesting. And it only gets interesting with you guys, not me. I mean, I'm not here to play Jojo the Talking Monkey. I'm trying to deliver serious material that is by a beautiful rabbi who's got, he's the dean of a yeshiva. Hopefully you're finding his notes on the commentaries useful. Hopefully it works. And we'll hear more about that tomorrow. So it's our 90-minute time's up. So I'm gonna shut her down for today. But please think about some questions for tomorrow, and I sure hope you'll all come back tomorrow and join, and may Hashem bless you guys today. Be encouraged, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. So I'm going to sign up for you folks. Take care, Hans. Thanks for coming.